Okay, here we are, guys. Now, listen, have you ever looked at the people that are blowing up Arbonne? You've seen these millennials, this generation of people that are just like doing crazy stuff, and you're wondering how they're doing it. Well, we're really, really privileged today, guys, to be having a millennial on our chat, and not just any millennial. Now, most of the millennials you see blowing up Arbonne are beautiful young ladies, which is just amazing. Today, we've got a young millennial, but he's a guy. Now, this is the first young millennial guy I've been able to interview. He's an amazing young man. He's blowing up his business. He's all the way from northern Michigan. Now, Daniel has a background in biomedical science major and a minor in international business, right? I mean, wow. And here he is with us, Daniel. Daniel. Eli! I'm looking at Daniel and I'm talking to
Oh,
Eli.
it's all good.
How
Daniel's
are you, mate?
doing well.
Anyone can do this, right? How are you,
Yeah,
mate? Thanks for joining us.
my pleasure. Thanks.
Wow, mate. Look, it's a real privilege to have you on, as I said, because, I mean, you guys are just blowing it up. I mean, you've grown up in a digital age, and if anyone's like me, I'm going, how are they doing this business? I mean, I know it's a lot to do with social media and everything, but I think there's more to it. We want to hear it from you, mate, because I know you've blown up your business and you're a young fella on fire. Mate, first of all, I'd love to ask you, how did you find your way into Arbonne?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Great place to start.
Yeah.
When I heard about Arbonne, I was working full time as well as going to school full time. So pursuing a degree in biomedical science and international business for my minor, and then doing exterior home restoration on the side. It wasn't really on the side because that was still a full-time job, but I was actually introduced to the business through one of my customers.
Wow. And, mate, what was their reach out? Did they just walk up and say, listen, mate, you need some refreshment, or was there some form of enrollment, or what was their verbiage like? Because this is one of the things I always get asked.
Yeah, it
And
was actually.
people always say, listen, mate, can you ask them how they were enrolled into looking at the products or looking at the business? So it's always an interesting one that people find fascinating. And we want to know how we get a millennial to join our business.
Okay. Yeah, so it was really funny because looking at me in my work uniform, I was all dirty and everything because that was probably the fourth house we were at that day. Excuse me. So I'm just up on the rooftop checking out what needed to be restored and seeing about preventative maintenance and everything. And all of a sudden I hear a voice like, hey, and this guy, I hear him shouting from the ground and he's like, hey, can you come down? I'm like, oh crap, what did I do now? So I'm like, give me 1 second, sir. So I climb down off the roof and he goes, oh, I just wanted to chat. I didn't know if you were super busy or what. And so we just get to talking for a bit and it's like, hey, can I get you something to drink? Do you like protein shakes? You look like you work out. And this guy is just like super high energy. So I'm like, I mean, sure, I'm not going to say no. And so he goes, all right, I'll be right back. So comes back out with a protein shake. And at the time, it was the ones that were already to drink in the cardboard packaging.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, actually, I don't really care for protein too much. I've tried protein in high school and college. And he's like, well, just try this one. Have you ever tried a plant-based protein? And I was like, oh, well, I'm not really vegan either. And so I just had like every excuse. And he's like, well, just try it. Let me know what you think. So I tried it and I'm like, oh, okay, this is actually not bad. It's actually pretty good. And he's like, awesome. You like that one? Do you drink energy drinks? And I'm like, well, not really. Occasionally here and there I'll have a Red Bull or something. And he's like, all right, well, I'll be right back. So comes out with one of the fizz sticks, which is Arbonne's version of it's a healthy energy drink. Essentially, you just put it in water and stir it up. And so he came out with that. That was actually delicious. So I started taking notice because I started to see the same logo on everything, but I didn't say anything right at that point. I was just kind of gauging the conversation still, trying to understand where he was coming from. So he was asking so many questions about me, like what I'm studying, what do I do for fun, all this different stuff. And in the meantime, he keeps running back in the house, bringing out like protein bars, stuff that his wife made. And eventually I'm like, okay, hold on. I keep seeing the same logo on like all the packaging that you're bringing out. Is this one of those network marketing companies? He's like, yeah, it is. So you're familiar with network marketing? I'm like, yeah, I've heard about those types of things. I'm just super busy. He's like, oh, I'm not asking you to join. I'm not even part of the business. My wife does it, but I just think it's incredible. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, what do you like about it? He goes, well, she's a regional vice president. So that's the third from the top level of the company. There's only 4 levels. It's very simple. And she's been doing this for 9 years, replaced her nursing income, and it's a willable business. So that's those are some of the things that stood out to me.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, well, I was like, okay, do you have more information on this? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So then he came out with an entire box of samples for me to take home. He's like, I'll let you get back to work. I know we've been talking for about 30 minutes, but take these home. If you're interested in hearing more, just give my wife Tammy a call, and you guys can connect and talk more about it. I don't really know a whole lot about the business.
Wow.
So that's really how I got introduced to our bar.
Wow. There you go, Daniel. It's in a nutshell, mate. So,
Super simple.
mate, what I'm taking from that was, if you want to enroll people in your business, get in front of them, be happy, be passionate, and just get their products into their mouth, right?
Right.
Just
Yeah,
get them,
at the
get them to
time,
try it. And
I just thought he was crazy, but
yeah.
it worked.
But mate, I'm guessing that his passion and his belief in the stuff was kind of really enrolling for you, buddy. Yeah?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So there's a big tip there for anyone that's looking to enroll new clients and new business builders, is just be totally passionate about your products and just get them in front of people. I really love that story. What I find is interesting, and because this is an Arbonne Inspired Men's page, it's Arbonne Inspired Entrepreneurs, really. It's not just for men, but it's interesting that this guy was then handballing, that's an Australian term, for passing the baby to his wife, instead of saying, well, I'm an independent consultant and this is my business, let's chat further. Instead of saying, well, my wife, the point I'm trying to make in there, guys, is don't handball it. Just take on the responsibility of growing their business for yourself and your family. And but yeah, wonderful story, mate. I know Daniel was like, going, oh yeah, so that's how you do it. Is that right, mate? Yeah.
And even at that point, I wasn't completely sold. I was still skeptical just because it was totally out of the blue. I wasn't expecting it at all.
Yeah.
And I did go home that weekend, and my coworker actually heard the same stuff, but he never acted on it.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. When you are presented with opportunities, it doesn't really do you any good unless you act on the opportunity.
100%, mate. 100%. I think it's a classic case of you can never say the wrong thing to the right person,
Absolutely.
And so, mate, you've inspired me to get a few tradies around to do some renos over the weekend. And moving right along, mate. That's awesome. So, mate, I just want to talk a little bit about growing up in the digital age and what advantages you have, because we had a chat earlier and you said about your generation is the first transitional generation from kind of old school that I'm used to, that didn't grow up in the digital age, and the new age of entrepreneurs. and you guys are kind of crossing the bridge between us two generations. And mate, you guys are totally target market for this business. So how does that look for you, mate?
We are. I mean, look around. Everywhere you look nowadays, you're seeing a trend towards healthy living. Whereas even 5 years ago, people weren't thinking about cruelty-free brands or vegan protein or clean workout lines. They were just, everything was focused on, they said milk was good for us. Different things in marketing towards sports nutrition products and things like that would never fly today. And that's just 5 years ago. So and even back when I was young, where am I going with this? So basically, my generation, I see it as going from still having those traditional views of you need to go to school, get good grades, go to college, get good grades, and then graduate and find a job. Hopefully someone will hire you, and then you work for 40 years, 40 hours a week, and retire on 40% of your income. Yeah. And I just, from my freshman year in college, I knew there would be a better way. I saw these different shows, people living better lifestyles, creating their own economy. And I knew that it was possible. I just didn't necessarily have the vehicle to get there at the time. And so it was really just about building my own self-confidence and attracting opportunities to me, which is where Arbonne kind of came into play.
Yeah, totally got that, mate. So first off, I want to say that, yes, there is definitely the winds of change in health and wellness, and that sits Arbonne right in the perfect spot. And when you combine that with digital entrepreneurs like you guys, and like I said, you guys don't want to work for 40 years, 40 hours on retiring 40%. Mate, what does the future look for people like you? I mean, when I was a kid, when I was your age, not that you're a kid, but I mean, you are to me, right? Our almost certain future was to, get a trade, have a job, and retire. But it's not like that for you guys, right?
Right. Like I see so many people say, like, take it step by step, do things day by day, and that might have worked back, when that was the only way. Now we're finding that people my age and people at even 15 years old now can make $200,000 a year from their smartphone, whereas that's just like something that was unheard of. Yeah. And so I hear a lot, like, my generation is entitled, and it's not necessarily that we're entitled. It's just that we know what's possible, and we're willing to go out there because we have options. Whereas before, nobody really had options. It was kind of this set path, and then there were a few outliers. So knowing that we have different options in terms of how to create our own life by design, we can go out and build a business that way.
Wow, mate! I think you've just done a tagline for your entire generation. We are not entitled. We just know what's possible.
Right.
Fantastic. Yeah. I really love that, mate. I really love that. And so, mate, the hair on fire question, Eli, how are you building a business? We want to know, because there's big Chuck Lynn there. He's on the line, and young Daniel and my great mate, Di. We're all kind of old school. And
right.
There'll be a lot of people watching this. How are these young fellas building their business? Right, Chuck? Daniel? Yeah,
so
right.
I guess, do you mind if I ask, like, how did you traditionally build the business?
Well, mate, my background is in traditional bricks and mortar retail. And, mate, we got crushed by the online phenomenon. It was something that we never saw coming. And, for me personally, I realized that to have a business future has to be online. Has to be relationship based because I love people. It has to be with products that are relevant, products that are on trend, with a company that has high purpose, for a company that's going to make us proud of what our children are going to move into the world and our grandchildren are going to inherit. A legacy company, that's me. So how I built the business is totally being passionate about the products. I mean, I always say I was born once when my mum delivered me, and I was born the second time when Arbonne came into my life. Everything that happened before I came into Arbonne prepared me for this opportunity, and man, I'm obsessed with it. So
I love that.
Yeah. So
The way that we build the business is very simple. You go out and you buy a pair of Nikes, or you see a great movie, and the first thing you do is you tell your friend about it. So with this, it's the same thing. We just find great products. Arbonne sells some of the best. I won't say the best because I don't know every company that's out there, and someone might have one product that might be better than one of ours. But
I disagree, mate. There is no product, no company in the world that has a better product than us, mate. Not a single company, not a single product.
Well, the thing I'm getting at is, despite that, we're still the #1 global brand for healthy living inside and out. We're equal parts nutrition and skincare. So for example, when someone has a skin condition, we're not going to say just use this lotions, potions kind of thing. We're going to address the gut.
Yeah.
And so really an inside out approach. And that just made total sense to me going into the medical field as a student. I kind of recognized that, our healthcare industry, I don't know how it is in Australia, but in the US, it's not very regulated, and it's focused more on treatment rather than prevention. And so I wanted to go into the medical field, but more on the preventative side. And this just made total sense to me. And the first thing that really caught my attention, I said that if I'm going to get involved with the company, I need to know that the products work. Yeah. So Tammy, my sponsor, recommended that I do the 30 Days to Healthy Living. And so it was a bit of an investment for me. I was a college student, but she broke it down to where it's $8 a day. And I was like, I'm spending more than that on, coffee and a bagel every day. So
that's it.
So I was like, why the heck not?
Yeah.
And so I did it. And I've always been super active, but 30 days in, I actually lost a little over 2 inches off my waist size. So I went from a 34 to 31 and just above a 31. But then I kept up with it. It wasn't like this radical change. It was just changing a little bit here and there. And over time, I saw significant differences. It was always hard for me to gain weight, whereas most people try to lose weight. It was so hard for me to build muscle. And I learned about, nutritional cleansing. You have to detox so that you can allow your body to promote growth. And it made it much easier to build muscle. I went from about 160 pounds in, I'd say, a 6-month period to just under 190 of lean muscle. Actually lost body fat percentage as well. So that really opened my eyes, and I was like, same thing with a movie or going out and buying something that I love. I'm going to share it with as many people as I can because I know everyone's looking for something like this.
100%. So, mate, one thing I'm questioned about what we call healthcare in Australia and healthcare in America. It's actually sick care. We're in the healthcare business, and I think it's our healthcare system is a sick care system. So we are really in the healthcare system. So, mate, I just want to ask you quickly. You have a background in biomedical science and international business. You've also been a tradie working on roofs to get by. Mate, I'd love to know some of those skills that you've brought into your Arbonne business, because we're going to get a mix of tradies and intellectuals and academics that are going to be watching this. What skill set did that bring to your Arbonne business that's helping you crush it, big fella?
Really, in college, the biggest thing I learned was networking. I had a professor. This is what really made me dive into entrepreneurship, because I had a entrepreneurship class. It was basically intro to entrepreneurship, where we would deliver pitches for different business ideas, and we would come up with business models and analyze business models of super successful companies. And
Wow.
so I just knew that basically this business, it's almost a no-brainer, I would say. Word of mouth advertising, which is the most powerful form of advertisement. And we have incredible products and an incredible culture, and that's all by design. Nothing was done on accident. You know, Petter Mork had this vision for Arbonne, and I remember hearing about his story where he would hold up an apple and say, "What do you see when you see this apple?"
Right.
And people might see, "Oh, I just see an apple," or they'd be more clever and say, "I see an apple tree," where he would see from that one apple millions of apple trees from the seed that was planted as a result of that apple falling from the tree. And I just thought that was incredible.
Wow, he did have an incredible vision for the legacy of Arbonne, and that's I'm sure that's going to continue. And in fact, it's experiencing exponential growth. Now, mate, just quickly, you touched on the business model, and you might be the first guy I've ever spoken to that's been at uni and done a bit of study around business models. Now, it's this old cherry where people go, oh, that's a pyramid scheme or this or that. It basically, first thing it says to me is that it's just a lack of knowledge or it's from an experience they had. Like when you're first introduced to this incredible business model, I mean, you're a uni guy and you study this stuff. What was your thoughts on it? Because for a lot of people, when it comes up, they basically revert or default back to something they heard, or my mum was involved in it, or my auntie was involved in it, and she did all this work, she made no money, and blah, blah, blah. It's a pyramid scheme. What do you say to that sort of thing?
Right. Like I've heard that a lot of times. I'm sure everybody has. And, you know, I thought the same thing when I first heard about network marketing because of what I was taught. You know, it's not a typical business model. It's not something that they even teach in school. I mean, today they do. They have courses on it and stuff. But a pyramid scheme is an unsustainable business model, and it's also illegal. So I saw that when I met Tammy. She explained how the company has been in business for 36 years at the time, and now we're going on 40 years. So I was like, if this was a pyramid scheme, for one, that argument's blown out of the water because we've been operating for this long. So I think if something shady was going on, the government would have stepped in by now. We're also open internationally. We're in 6 different countries and some of the most booming economies around the world. So that was huge for me. We're a B Corp now, so that means we're benefiting, that we put people over profits. So that was huge because in the traditional business sense, it's all about the bottom line. People are wondering, you know, what's our cash flow? How much are we going to get out of this? Whereas Arbonne's one of the most generous companies. The Arbonne Charitable Foundation is incredible and has done so much good for a lot of teens and with disaster relief. So that was huge. I've always been a person who's concerned about giving back, and I know my generation's known as the giving generation too. And then also, it's a willable business. So that part alone, I was planning to be a dentist ultimately after I received my degree. So I did my undergraduate studies, and it was about at that time when I was introduced to Arbonne, and that just kept me up at night. This is why I was researching Arbonne so heavily.
Wow.
I just went home and I'm like, you know, as a dentist, or being anywhere in the medical field, any kind of corporate job, you go in, clock in, receive a paycheck, and that's it. Like, you're trading your time for money. That's a linear income. In network marketing, you build a vertical income. So this is also from Robert Kiyosaki's book, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He talks about how you can use leverage to build wealth. And so there's like 4 different types of people. There's an employee, self-employed, business owner, and investor. And so you want to get to the investor stage, or at least the business owner stage ultimately. You don't want to be trading your time for money, because it's like a hamster running on a wheel.
Exactly.
So, I was like, even as a dentist, that's not something that I can leave a legacy to my children with. They would have to go through the same 8 years of schooling, and that's just, and there's so many other factors that go into that. There's so much competition around that field, and that's all great, but I want to leave something that will outlive me, and that isn't just going to fade away, like a trust fund or something that someone can just blow through. I want it to be something memorable.
Good on you, Eli. Hey, mate, knowing that you're going to be a dentist almost made me, Chuck, and Daniel stop smiling, mate. So, Eli, mate, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I think you're going to immortalise those words for your generation, which is, we're not entitled. We just know what's possible. I really love that, mate. That was really, really, really moving to hear that from a young fella that's on his grind to the top. And, mate, watch this space for Eli Godsey, mate. Really appreciate your contribution, mate. It's been fantastic chatting. I mean, really, I got so much out of that. Your contribution to this group and to the world in general, mate, should be really proud of. And, mate, you're the first young millennial we've had on here. We'll have to get some more on for us old fellas to take some notes off. What do you reckon, Chuck and Daniel? Die? For sure. Well, look, mate, we're going to leave it there. Eli, thanks again, mate. You've been absolute legendary. Now, guys, keep an eye out, because next week we're going to be interviewing Ollie Best. He's a PT that's just crushing it in London, UK. So stand by for that one. I'll be promoting that one. But thanks to the guys for watching, Di, Chuck, Lynn, and everyone that's going to watch this down the track. I know they're going to get immense value out of this young millennial champion. And so well done, mate. And see you guys. And I'll look forward to catching you up next week, and we'll have some more gold. My call to action. You're already in Arbonne, so get out there and finish what you started. You're already winning. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Tony.